Okay, so I already know what's happening right now. I can feel it through the screen. You read that title and your eyes just did a full rotation like a slot machine that landed on disappointment. The Simpsons is good again. Sure, you've heard that one before. Every couple of years, some blogger writes a think piece about how The Simpsons is back. And every time you check in on an episode, watch Homer do something that feels like it was written by an algorithm trained on Family Guy clips, and you go right back to rewatching season 4 like the rest of us. I get it. I've been you. For 20 years, I have been you. I'm 20, but technically that's my entire life. But the point stands. But I need you to just sit down for a second, because I'm about to say something that's going to sound completely unhinged, and to your knowledge, I have receipts, so don't think that I'm just yapping here. The Simpsons season 37 is genuinely, honestly, no qualifiers needed, good television. Not good for modern Simpsons, not good if you lower your expectations, just good. Good in a way that I didn't think this show was capable of anymore. And almost nobody is talking about it because we all collectively agreed to stop paying attention sometime around 2005. All right, let me start with the one that made me actually pause my TV and text someone like a lunatic. Bart N Frink. So the premise is that Bart accidentally becomes Professor Frink's lab assistant after filling in for Martin Prince at a tabletop RPG session. And this somehow drags The Simpsons into the world of Silicon Valley tech billionaires who are obsessed with living forever, and the future of the entire internet ends up at stake. And that's a golden era premise. Like, that's a Homer goes to space level of escalation from a tiny character-driven starting point. And I need you to hear me when I say the execution actually lands. Glenn Howerton and Danny Pudi guest star as dueling tech moguls, and the show just skewers the immortality-obsessed billionaire class with the kind of satirical precision that made you fall in love with this show in the first place. And the thing that got me is it's not that usual thing where some celebrity walks into Moe's and just says their line and leaves. Howerton and Pudi are actually doing work in this episode. And honestly, it caught me off guard because you don't expect that anymore. Fan communities voted it the best episode of the season, and honestly, I think it could hold its own in a season 6 lineup. And I know how that sounds, but I said it and I'm not taking it back. And then right after that, you get Seperance. Yes, spelled like that. And I love that, which is a full Severance parody. And the thing is, they didn't just reference it. They actually went for it like they had something to prove. Homer's natural gift for faking enthusiasm gets him recruited by this shady company called Enthusiasm on Demand, which is basically a stealth advertising firm. And Julianne Moore plays the ice-cold CEO, Consonance. And the detail that killed me, they cast Zach Cherry, who plays Dylan in the actual Severance, in a guest role. And the show is just winking at you the whole time. But there's this whole thing underneath it about Homer and sincerity, and like, what happens when the one real thing about this guy that everyone thinks is an idiot gets turned into a product, and they actually pull it off. And that right there is a show that knows exactly what it's doing. And I don't think anyone was expecting that from season 37 of anything. Okay, so did anyone else notice that The Simpsons just forgot about Bart for like 3 straight seasons? Because I went back and checked, and it's actually kind of insane. Season 36 didn't give him a single real spotlight episode. And this is the original protagonist we're talking about. The kid whose face was on every t-shirt in 1990. And yeah, I'm 20. My dad told me that. But the point is, they just reduced him to background reactions and B-plot filler. Like he was nobody. Season 37 course corrected hard though. 3 consecutive Bart-centric episodes in the first half of the season. And the one that really got me was Bad Boys for Life, which is like a flashback where it turns out Bart was wrongly diagnosed as a psychopath after his first prank at 6 years old. And the show just actually asks the question of whether that label is what made him who he became. And I was not ready for that. And like that's the show engaging with its own mythology in a way it hasn't done since like the Golden Age. And I don't think people realize how significant that actually is, because they're basically here asking whether the Simpsons writers themselves created the version of Bart that everyone got tired of. And then Parahormonal Activity gets nominated for a Writers Guild of America award. And I need you to just let that land for a second. A season 37 Simpsons episode was deemed one of the best written animated scripts of the year by professional television writers in 2025. So yeah, in case you don't remember or didn't watch it yet, it's like a flash forward episode where the kids are teenagers, Lisa has acne, Bart's too short to reach the cupboard, and his sister just will not let him forget it. And Maggie, voiced by Lindsay Lohan, by the way, is recovering from laryngitis and finally has things to say. And then Marge hits menopause, leaving Homer as, quote, the last sane person in the house. Good luck with that one, Homer. But you know, the brilliance is in the details here, because John Lovitz returns as Artie Ziff, which is a callback that rewards longtime fans without alienating anyone. And the couch gag shows Marge's 39th through 43rd birthdays. And on her 43rd, she wonders if this is the year she'd change her hairstyle, and then says she doesn't have that kind of courage. And that is so Marge, it hurts. I don't think the show has nailed her like that in 15 years. And they just buried it in a couch gag that I know you skipped. Everybody skips those. But go back and watch this one, and then come find me in the comments. The episode was written by Lonnie Steele Saucetan, and it's you know, the kind of script where you can just feel that the person who wrote it actually cares about these characters and is doing some of their best work right now in season 37. And I know how ridiculous that sounds, but it's true. Okay, and the guest stars this season? Well, I'm just gonna list them because they speak for themselves. Okay, let me just... Kieran Culkin plays a runaway kid living in the school library in the 800th episode. The Gleasons, Brendan and Domhnall, father and son in real life, play young and old versions of Joe Quimby Sr. Then you've got Viola Davis narrating the Treehouse of Horror. Idris Elba is playing the literal devil opposite Krusty the Clown. Michael Keaton shows up for some reason. Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. We're talking the Birdman director. Guest stars in an episode where Homer becomes Bumblebee Man's secret stuntman. And like, I could keep going, but my lungs can't. And Albert Brooks came back. Albert Brooks. The man who created Hank Scorpio, one of the greatest one-off characters in television history, came back for season 37. And I think now that tells you more than really any review ever could. Because these are actors who said yes to a show in its 37th season. And the only reason you do that is if the script on your desk is actually worth your time. All right, we got to address the elephant because I know some of you have been holding this in since the title card. The Zombie Simpsons argument says the show died around season 9 or 10, right? And that everything since is just a hollow imitation with same characters and really no soul. And for a long time, that criticism had teeth. There were legitimately rough years in there, and seasons 12 through 20 exist. And I'm not going to pretend they don't. But here's what the Zombie Simpsons crowd hasn't caught up on. Matt Selman took over as primary showrunner in season 33, and I can tell. The show has been on a genuinely different trajectory since. The focus shifted back to character-driven stories, the satire got sharper, and the emotional beats started landing again in a way that I honestly didn't think was possible anymore. And you see, season 37 isn't some random fluke. It's the peak of a 4-season upswing that most people missed because they'd already written the show off, and I think there's something almost poetic about that. The Simpsons spent decades, longer than I've been alive. Okay, enough of that. Decades. As a cultural punchline where everyone goes, "It's still on?" And meanwhile, quietly, with almost no fanfare, the show just started getting good again. Not golden age good, I'm not delusional, but good in a way that earns the right to exist, that justifies 800 episodes, that makes you think, maybe this thing still has something to say. Like, be honest here. You watched 73 episodes of a mid-Netflix drama last year. You binged what? 4 seasons of something that you're already forgetting, and you definitely have opinions about the third act of Wicked. Because for some reason, everyone does. But you haven't watched a single episode of The Simpsons, season 37, and a show you used to love. A show that shaped your sense of humor, that taught you what satire was, that you quoted every single day of middle school, is doing genuinely excellent work right now, and you don't even know it because you decided in 2006 that it was dead. And let me tell you this. It's not dead. It just kind of stopped being cool to watch. And there's a big difference between those two things. Bart N Frink, Parahormonal Activity, Seperance, The Day of the Jack-Up. Start with any of those and give it 22 minutes, and if it doesn't land, that's fine. Go back to telling people the show should have ended after Behind the Laughter. But if it does land, and I think it absolutely will, you kind of owe 37 seasons an apology. And maybe a like on this video while you're at it. Well, maybe not all of them, because I mean, season 23 was genuinely rough, and yeah, we don't need to talk about that one. Subscribe if you want more of this, because I promise the next one is gonna make this look like a warm-up. This is Morty Fiction, and you already know. Cut! Okay, that was a good one, right? Yeah. Subscribe, though, for real.